no pecuniary interest for you. That's the key term.
Yep. Pete, it's the rule of 100. It's the rule of 100, so he's okay.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. Absolutely, that's right.
All right, we'll call this meeting to order. Good morning, everyone. If you could kindly, preferably turn your phones off, but if not, put them on silent or vibrate. We're going to start today with the invocation from Councilmember Carroll.
We're thankful for this town and its residents. We're grateful for all who work for the betterment of our community and all who serve on its behalf. Let those who work here and those who serve here be ever mindful of the town's vision and mission statement. Grant this council the wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our time, the ability to work together in harmony, even when there is honest disagreement, a sense of the welfare and true needs of our people, personal peace in our lives, and joy in our task. Amen.
Amen. If you will join us in pledging allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the flag, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll? By the way, we have our alternative clerk today, sitting in for Janice, Lucy. Thank you. So if you can call the roll, please.
Mayor Foley?
Here.
Vice Mayor Alwater?
Here.
Councilmember Carroll?
Here.
Councilmember Altieri?
Here.
Councilmember Dane?
Here.
Let the record show all members are present.
All right, thank you. And thank you, everyone, for coming to the regularly scheduled Town Council meeting for the Town of Indian River Shores, this March 26, 2025. Item 2, I understand there is one request to reorder or pull an item from the consent agenda. Other than that, is there any, we'll get to that in a second, but are there any other requests from council to reorder, delete, or add items to the agenda? All right, there being none, Vice Mayor Alwater, did you have an item you wanted to address?
Yeah, on the consent agenda, item 5B is in Bravo, approval work authorization, 2025 tax legislation.
All right, so we'll move item 5B to item 8C. That would be the amended motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So we have next a presentation and a proclamation to Dr. David Moore. Dr. Moore, come on up. So important are you to the community that we are actually doing this proclamation 2 months in a row. So we did a proclamation last month hoping that it would assist your candidacy for the Superintendent of the Year. Out of a nation of, how many were up for it, sir? Like 100, 100 and...
Well, there's 15,000 superintendents across the nation, so Final Four is not bad.
All right, so you made the Final Four. That's better than my picks in the bracket for the March Madness. So
mine's busted, so it's...
Right, so we want to congratulate you and thank you for, you know, the outstanding job you've done for our community. I know we have representatives from the Learning Alliance, which if anybody on the dais or in the audience has not had a chance to go and see the work that the Learning Alliance does and Dr. Moore does and his team does to educate the youth in our community, I highly encourage you to do it. It's not just rewarding and satisfying to see where your tax dollars go. It's becoming inspirational. So the metrics I'll leave to you because they keep going on a trajectory up and up and up. And every time I mention them, I'm told them out of date. They've gotten even better. So we'll ask you to say a few words, but you know, first the proclamation reissued today is a proclamation of the Town of Indian River Shores recognizing Dr. David K. Moore for his achievement as the 2025 Superintendent of the Year, 2025 National Superintendent of the Year finalist, and Consortium of Florida Education Star Superintendent. That's an awful lot of accolades, but I'm sure even those are not enough. And I'd like to end an addendum and just thank the people from the Learning Alliance that are here as well. And I hope I didn't miss anybody who's part of the education team coming to us today. We don't have many school-age children in our community. In fact, I was once told that I'm pretty close to school age for our community. But we do appreciate all of the benefits an educated youth does in our community. And thank you sincerely from the bottom of our hearts for all the hard work that you do. And any continued contributions or improvements we can assist in, we're here to help. So thank you very much. And congratulations.
So thank you so much for the acknowledgement of the collective work. When I say collective, it is not one person who's being acknowledged who brought forward what is drastic transformation from academic outcomes. So some of the numbers as you asked for, 95% of our schools are an A or E, where 5 years ago it was some 46 or 47%. We're very, very, very proud of that. Graduation rate of 96%. Very, very proud of that. We've doubled the percent of A schools. We're very much looking forward to the outcomes for this year as we continue to grow. So we are very, very thankful for the acknowledgement. And the fact is, we may be the only school-age children on Indian River shores, but is Stephen Bull. We're going to go back to work.
Terrific. Thank you again. And thank you again. And I'll note this is the only time I've been addressed by the principal where I haven't gotten in trouble. So I'm really appreciative of that. So, all right, moving on to item 3B. We have a sea turtle nesting season overview presentation by our code officer, Officer Jake Micrans. So, Officer Micrans, the floor is yours.
Good morning. So this is a very brief overview of this upcoming, actually actively, sea turtle season now. It's going to be nothing like what Quentin and Jessica has done in the past, but just a little overview. The season began on March 1st and ends October 31st every year. The artificial lights that are seen from the beach can confuse the baby turtles, find their way back to the ocean when they hatch. They confuse the artificial light for the moon, and it actually, they go towards artificial light more than the moon, statistically. Exterior amber or red lights have little to no impact on baby turtles. These can also be found on the FWC's website, their certification and approved fixtures and bulbs. This is one way that oceanfront property owners can assist in recovery. It's probably the least expensive as well. This is a notice and brochure that we put out on the weekly newsletter for the residents to look at. Just gives a little overview of the use of sea turtle friendly lights, or don't use them at all. Like I said, the approved and certified bulbs and fixtures can be found on FWC's website, which is also seen under the program phone number area. That's the website that can find all the information. The town utilizes a third-party vendor, EAI, to conduct detailed lighting surveys. During the season, 3 surveys will be conducted. The first survey, the preseason, was completed on February 24th, prior to the beginning of the season, just to get a baseline. The second survey will be conducted sometime during the middle of the season, usually between May and June, and then one near the end of the season. General prohibitions per the town ordinance and FWC and Florida statutes, they pretty much line up with each other. No exterior point source of light shall be directly visible from the ground on any area of the beach. No point source of light shall directly illuminate any area of the beach seaward of the primary dune. The operation of motorized vehicles is prohibited except for emergency vehicles and others approved by FWC in the town. No horseback riding. I haven't seen that too much around here. And no campfires. So actually, Quentin from the county and Jessica, they showed me this Encapsulate Turtle Safe Light Guide card. It should be found in your packet. It's used to view a standard light bulb, and it shows the point of light source. If you take them and if you look up at a regular light, you can see the illumination of it. But if you look at the exit light, it'll show nothing. That's the use of the red and the amber coverings. The friendly lighting will appear blue, green, or purple, and amber or red lights are not visible. Here is the preseason survey report from this year that EAI provided us. It gives location, coordinates, date and time, property type, address, the violation, location of light, and if it violates Inner Shores Town Ordinance. Out of the 36 survey reports, only 11 violated the town's ordinance, so it's a pretty good jump from last year to this year, starting out. The 11 violations of the town ordinance preseason, and here's a list. There it is. There's a list of the ones that actually violate or are in violation of the ordinance, and notices were sent out to these residents, and I've been in contact with at least 3 of them who say that they are completing them or have already completed it. And that'll be hopefully shown on the next survey. Here's an example report from EAI. It's very detailed. Property type, how to fix the issue, location, and if the light source is visible from the beach, it'll indicate yes or no. Also, the light source illuminates a portion of the beach, either yes or no. This is an example of the notice of violation that's sent to the residents, which references the town ordinances and, to be aware of the lighting that could potentially hurt the sea turtles. And next is one of the emails from a property management company indicating that they will be fixing the light issues to come in compliance. And that's all I have for that.
Are there any questions for Mr. Mike Krantz? Vice Mayor?
I presume that you send the results of the survey and any follow-up actions to Quentin Bergman over at the county?
He doesn't request them, but it would probably be a good idea to
Yeah.
start doing that. That way he's in the loop since they are
Because
the main.
I'm on Beach and Shores Preservation Advisory Committee, and this comes up all the time. And you know, frankly, we should get credit for the great work that you're doing. So,
Thank you.
how long do we give someone to rectify an issue?
Typically it's 30 days,
Okay.
but that can be, you know, sooner or later, depending on how severe it is.
Okay.
Anything else? Thank you very much. Greatly appreciate it. Must have been kind of challenging doing this with all the sand being deposited, but now that that project's done, I guess you can navigate around there pretty quickly now, huh?
Yes, sir.
So, good. Great. Thanks. Keep up the good work. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye. All right. Item 4, comments from the public regarding agenda items. And by way of clarification, for those of you who are here for the request to modify the River Club, those comments will be later in this meeting. So we're talking now about just general agenda items. Any comments on agenda items? No comments. All right. So with that, we'll move to item number 5. Is there a motion to, let me see, we don't have any votable items here, so we can do this by acclamation. Is there a motion to approve consent agenda items 5A, C, D, E, F, G, and H?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, unanimous. Mayor's report. We have a busier than usual agenda today, so I'll keep it short and sweet. Legislative agenda items. I've asked our town attorney and our town manager to follow closely a bill that came out of committee 14-0, which would set some parameters that would be beneficial, in my view, to the town as ratepayers under the franchise agreement for utility services. It would essentially cap or eliminate surcharges for out-of-jurisdiction services provided, and that would, of course, be a benefit to us. There is a Florida League of Cities, perhaps Council Member Dane will be talking about this later, but there's a bill of great concern for all municipalities under a bill which sounds nice, the Live Local Act, but it's basically an attack on municipal abilities to regulate local zoning, and so there are some really problematic aspects to it. The Florida League of Cities and numerous other organizations are lined up to provide input and to oppose the worst aspects to it, which would include these things called accessory dwelling units. I know the Vice Mayor's talked about it, and I believe Councilmember Dane did at some point. The fear is if we're not allowed to zone out an accessory dwelling unit, those can be put in. We have no power to regulate it, and then those can become short-term rentals. So guess what? We have a greater burden on our municipal services, on our police, our fire, our EMTs, our roads. As written, we would not even be able to regulate parking and the number of parking spaces adjusting for that. So it's a matter of concern. We have to follow it very, very carefully, and I would ask the town attorney to kindly update us on that. I think it's probably worth our while to circulate correspondence now that these things are coming out of committee, to pick the 2 or 3 bills that affect us most and express our opinion. I would ask that be drafted and circulated to council. I say only 2 or 3 because if you include more than 2 or 3, it just becomes noise. So let's pick the ones that are of importance to us. We can get some input on that in a few moments from other council members. The other one that caught my attention was the ability to, the attempts to increase the liability limits on sovereign immunity, which basically means that the current limits of liability for the town, if it were sued, can then be increased to $1 million, $3 million, and then it would have an automatic increase in October of 2025 to $1.1 million to $3.1 million. It's currently $100,000, $300,000. We don't get sued a heck of a lot, but you know, if you know, there are incidences, then it comes out of the taxpayers' pockets. I'm allowed to say this because I'm a recovering lawyer myself, but some of these things look just geared to benefit, you know, greatly trial lawyers groups, and of course they have a very powerful lobby, so I think we need to include that and make the case for the town that we don't want our taxpayers being subject to having to pay for legal claims. Also, it would eliminate the need to have a special bill, which is another hurdle to get payment on these claims, and it would just allow payment for these things, so it would reduce the administrative mechanisms that are an impediment to these claims being attractive to plaintiffs' lawyers. Congressman Herodopoulos, our newly elected congressman, was recently here on a visit. Word has it the vice mayor met and had a nice conversation with him. He can talk to that when it comes to his item, but I think he's demonstrated that he's taking to heart coming to our area and getting input from us on items of importance. I know he had a busy schedule that day, but he found time to be in our very own town, and I'll let the vice mayor talk about that. Hurricane prep, as council notices in their packet, we're well ahead of schedule than in prior years. Things become fresh in your mind, particularly after Milton and the near miss of the tornado that hit just south of town. So I'm glad to say that at least I'm very, very impressed and satisfied with the speed and anticipation of what we need to do to prepare for hurricane season. As these things go, the more you prepare, the less it happens, but that would be a good thing to have happen. With that, I'll ask if there are any questions of me from any of the council members. If not, we can move on to other council member items or comments that they wish to make. Nothing? All right. Any council people have, or Vice Mayor, please.
Just following up very quickly on your comments, I did meet with the congressman. He's right out here. We walked down to the beach, we meaning mostly folks from Indian River County staff, and County Commissioner Fleischer was here as well. And you know, I appreciated the fact that he is focusing on Indian River County. Didn't necessarily occur with his predecessor. And we walked down along the beach, and he said, in my opinion, all the right things about the importance of beach renourishment for our community. So that's all I have to say.
All right. Anybody else? Thank you, Vice Mayor Elwater, for making the time available to do that. That's it's an important. Thank you. All right. We will now move on to items of discussion with possible or probable action. We have ordinance number 577, the marijuana dispensary ordinance. It's the second reading. Mr. Sweeney, you have to do your thing, read the title, comply with the statute, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. This is ordinance number 577, an ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Indian River Shores, Florida, banning marijuana dispensary facilities, adding the definitions for marijuana dispensary, and for other purposes, providing for severability, providing for scrivener's errors, the repeal of all conflicting ordinances, codification, and an effective date. This is the second reading. Thank you.
All right. It's the second reading. Is there any public comment before council has comment on it or takes action? All right. Is there any council comment on this as a second reading? If there is none, is there a motion to approve? Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Let's have a roll call vote.
Mayor Foley,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Alwater,
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll,
Aye.
Councilmember Altieri,
Aye.
Councilmember Dane.
Aye.
Let the record show the motion to approve passed unanimously.
Okay, so henceforth, anybody who wants to sell pot in the town of Indian River Shores, you have a statute you have to comply with. So looks like we'll be in good shape for that going forward. Item 8B, ordinance number 578. This is a modification to planned residential development, River Club Track. A note, this is a little different. We've done these before, but this is what's referred to as a quasi-judicial hearing. So the council is acting as a quasi-judicial body. I'm going to let the town attorney give a summary explanation of what that all entails, but essentially we have a responsibility as an adjudicatory body here and not a legislative body to review the requested modification to the planned residential development at the River Club. We have to adhere to the items of record. We have to have well, I'll let you do it, but my memory is, substantial, reasonable, competent evidence that we base our decision on, and we will be turning to that, shortly. We also have to disclose whether or not we've had any ex parte contacts. That's a $20 word for, has anybody called you on this? That's on one side or the other. I'll disclose that I have not. Has any other member of council received any ex parte communications? Councilmember Alwater?
Yesterday, I was at the beach I was at the Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee meeting, sitting out in the audience, and a resident of the community there, David Searchy, was there. He asked me, he says, "Are you going to be at the meeting, a town council meeting tomorrow where the River Club item comes up?" I said yes, and that was the end of our conversation. So just an abundance of caution, just mention that.
All right, thank you. So that's on the record. Anything else? Nobody else? All right. Mr. Sweeney, why don't you address the items that I missed, and then we can proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'll read the ordinance entitled, and I'll just go through a couple of brief points. This is ordinance number 570, an ordinance of the town of Indian River Shores, Florida, approving a modification to the master development plan for a planned residential district, ERD, authorizing a change in the configuration of buildings and lot types as tract U.A., providing for conformance with the modified master development plan, and providing for scrivener's error to repeal all conflicting ordinances, codification, and effective. This is the first reading. Mr. Mayor, Council, just to briefly emphasize the things. First of all, the ex parte, thank you for disclosing any and answering that. Also, I would ask that each council member just affirm that they can and will have an open mind and base it on competent substantial evidence. Is there any reason why any member of council would not be able to do that? Hearing none, I think we're fine there. The last part I'll mention is, as you said, Mayor, this is similar to a court proceeding, so we will have a presentation by the applicant. Our acting clerk will present an oath here in a minute just for them, for testimony purposes for the record, and also to clarify, anybody that would speak, this would be similar to public speaking. So they would be limited to 3 minutes, asked that they provide their name and address, and would speak on the topic. At the end of that part of the hearing, we would conclude, bring it back to council, just like we always do. You would have deliberation and then bring it for a vote. So at this time, Mr. Mayor, I would just only ask that our acting clerk swear in anybody that's necessary.
Okay, anybody who's going to present, talk, stand, be sworn in, and we can then proceed.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right.
All right, thank you. We're ready to go. At the outset, I just want to say we have thank yous for, and of course I have an open mind, but I just want to, regardless of the decision making that goes on, it's always easy for us to do this when we see the quality of work that's presented to us by our town staff, who did an excellent job on this. And I'll even throw the legal staff in there as well. You did an excellent job doing this. And also the applicant, the papers were very capably done and very clear, and it was very easy for me at least to figure out what was going on. So thank you for the professionalism of the presentation. I'd also like to thank the River Club folks for neatly defining the issues that are of importance to you. And I know I think this is our first formal time having a look at this, but we had some communications in the past about, the way things have gone, and it looks like there's been, a pretty good meeting of the minds in terms of, how this is going to proceed. So thank you very much for making our jobs easier. I would invite the representatives of the applicant to come forward. Please state your name and your affiliation, and give a brief presentation on what it is you're seeking to do. When you're doing this, bear in mind that, you know, you don't want to talk yourself out of something either, you know? So you don't have to go on too long. We've all read the materials. We're all, I think, everybody can speak for themselves, but we're pretty diligent in terms of reading the materials before us. So if you'd come forward and just make your presentation briefly, we'd appreciate that.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Representing Mr. Mikulski, I'm Steve Moeller. I'm a professional engineer in the state of Florida. With Masteller Moeller, our address is 1655 27th Street, Vero Beach. Pete did a great job of explaining the application. We're here for a conceptual PRD modification for Tract UA to allow it to be developed with single family rather than the multifamily that's on there today. So we've submitted the conceptual plan, which you've seen, the parameters of the zoning, which are proposed for the site that would be for the single family, are listed on the plan. So if there's any questions about the project, we'd be glad to answer.
Thank you very much. Are there questions from council? We want to start from right to left. We call this the lawyer side of the dais because, well, anything?
I don't have a
Councilman?
question.
None from me?
No.
No questions? All right, terrific.
Thank you.
You know, I do have one comment, one question. Sure. Have you had an opportunity to take a look at the letter from the River Club representative, though? They have some items that, I believe, 4 items that are of concern to them.
Can you be specific? I have, but can you be specific about which ones you want me to address?
Well, I mean, I don't have a particular interest in any of them, but what I'm looking for is, as I'm deliberating this, to ensure that there's nothing that pops out to you that says, my goodness, we can't do this, or that's a deal breaker for us. These things that are set forth in Ms. Claus's letter, and I'll give her a chance to address it in a second, look like items that would be, you know, the subject of good faith negotiation between the parties. And,
Okay.
you know, in my view of this, it's the kind of thing that, you know, somebody with your client's reputation
Gotcha.
would do as a matter of course. So I'm just asking for you to give them a little bit of comfort as we proceed in this,
Sure.
that there's nothing that pops out on the page that, you know, would be of
No,
huge concern.
some of them, so number one relates to the setback. I can explain that. The lots on the east side of the road, we're proposing on the plan to have a 15-foot rear yard setback. And the reason why that one's a little bit shorter is because it abuts the 50-foot buffer that is against A1A. So we felt it was appropriate to, since there'll be actually 65 feet to the house, and there are no homes behind that, we proposed that's the answer for that. The second one relates to the construction access, which I understand that Mr. Mikulski is willing to do. However, as you know, the Old Winter Beach Road is a county road, and there have been a number of changes of staff at the county. I was here before you all representing somebody else, and at the time we were proposing it to be accessing off of Old Winter Beach Road closer to A1A, where it would be entering our own property. We were told that that wasn't going to be able to be approved. But I understand through the efforts of Mr. Mikulski and Dave Knight, who's here with me as well, they've spoken to the HOA, and it's understood that they may be willing to allow a construction access temporary to cross the further west on Old Winter Beach Road, past the AT&T cutout, if you're familiar with that. And that would give the distance we think that would make the county feel comfortable with approving the temporary access. So it's my understanding we're going to attempt to get that permit to allow that to happen.
Okay.
Okay.
Vice Mayor has a question at this point.
Sure.
Sir, you mentioned the 50-foot setback
Yes.
as a reason to cut it shorter. Does that 50-foot setback, is that out from the property east over to A1A?
Yes.
So that would include the sidewalk along A1A as well? You're
Oh, it's not
you're
the, oh, no, it's not the physical distance to the physical road. It is to the actual west right-of-way line of A1A.
I'm sorry, say that again, please?
It's the 50-foot buffer starts at the project's east property line
Okay.
and heads west, so it doesn't include anything that's in the right-of-way of A1A. So that buffer is not to the physical road, it's actually to the limits of the right-of-way that the DOT has for A1A.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's quite a distance.
What's the total distance to A1A?
Boy, I don't know that. I'm going to say at least 20, 30 feet. You've got a sidewalk there, as you know, and then a little bit of green area. I think there's a turn lane at Old Winter Beach Road coming south, so the actual, if I added it all up, it's 20 to 30 feet.
Okay. I think we're up to item 3.
Yeah, we're working on the actual plan, which is a little bit more detailed with the fire staff here. We've met with them several times over the course and understand that what we propose as a turnaround will be acceptable, so we have addressed that with your staff.
All right. Now, item 4, looks to me like these are more items that kind of relate to your relationship, the developer's relationship with the HOA. I'm not sure that the town has any ability to really enforce that. That's probably a matter of contract and development, but I think they're, it's always better to get along with the people that,
Right.
when you're building with it, and, anything leap out of the page here that looks like a game breaker to you.
No, whatever is, I think, Mr. McKelsky, if I say something incorrect, please stop me, but Mr. McKelsky is aware of the HOA documents and criteria, such as spoken to architecturals, and he'll have to adhere to whatever is in the HOA documents for the River Club Carlton project, just like anybody else would that is building.
Great. All right, thank you. I think, that's all I have. I think that should be of some comfort to the representatives of the River Club here. Is there anything else from council that they...
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to add very briefly to follow up. There was 2 pertinent parts. First of all, this is separate and distinct from the HOA or any HOA. We have jurisdiction for the town and our abilities. That's what we're focused on. The second part is this is a large-scale sort of zoning, 30,000 feet, if you will. The actual site plan, as Mr. Mueller was just referencing, with the specific setbacks where the utility lines will run, that will come again, as you heard Mr. Held before, through our building department, and we'll have an opportunity to make sure it's exactly in conformance with all the technical specifications.
Okay,
Clarify that.
Thank you, and I appreciate you anticipating something before I was going to forget to do it, because my note on item 1 and 2 is that, we have administrative and staff responsibilities when final plans are presented to us anyway. But what I was looking for was, generally, we're not going to see something very different presented to the, to the town planning office if we were to approve this request. I take you at your word, and it sounds like that's not the case. Item 2, I think the town can help in terms of working with the county to get access on that. We can't guarantee anything, and it's always in our interest to provide smooth access. I can tell you I've gotten an earful about traffic conditions that are not our condition here, so I don't have any interest, nor does council, in having any interest in creating more traffic issues. So, we can do what we can to help with this on behalf of our constituents. And the same with item 3, the turnarounds for emergency vehicles. So that'll be something that can be dealt with further down the road. But all in all, that's it. Unless you have anything else you wish to say, thank you very much for your concise presentation and the great materials you presented to us.
Okay.
Ms.
Thank you
Kloss,
for
sorry?
Thank you for your consideration.
You're welcome. Ms. Kloss, do you wish to say something on behalf of River Club?
Just to say thank you for allowing us to be part of this process. I think our memorandum lays out high-level concerns that we'll have going forward, but the HOA is generally in support of the PRD modification, and we understand that the other questions that we've detailed, while terribly important, we think, to the overall community, particularly how this development appears from A1A and what we can do to preserve precious green screening for our community and the beautiful landscape throughout our community through this process is of high importance. We'll do whatever we can to work with you and the developer and the county to get access construction. That is really a very important, I will underscore how important that is to all the owners in the community. You know the short amount of space from A1A to where this road will cut in. It's just seems untenable. So we thank you, and we know that the HOA standards will be taken up in the next go-around, and our community will set in place and coordinate a process whereby we can work efficiently with the builder and with the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your participation in this. I take it there's nothing for Ms. Claus from council. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak in favor of or in opposition or comment on the proposed development? No? With that, I believe I have to formally close the presentation of evidence. See, I'm doing all right here, right? So, we'll formally close the presentation of evidence for the quasi-judicial proceeding, and we can now proceed to deliberations among council. Clarification from our town attorney, is this considered a first reading vote, or do we just vote once on this?
This is a first reading vote on the ordinance, but we will not be having another quasi-judicial hearing.
Right, okay. So is there any discussion? Well, let's see if there's a motion to approve first.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion from council in favor or in opposition or commenting on the evidence? If there isn't, we can take a roll call vote.
Mayor Foley?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Atwater?
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll?
Aye.
Councilmember Altieri?
Aye.
Councilmember Dane? Let the record show the motion to approve passed unanimously.
All right. Thank you very much, and good luck working together on this. It's always better when people work together, and I think you're a good example of that. So thank you and have a great day. All right. Item number 8C, as amended, the Kimley Horn approval of the work authorization. Vice Mayor Elmwater, you had some comments on it.
You could please pass these down.
Sure.
So what I'm passing you is, the town manager and I have had a fair number of discussions about this item, and he sent this response to me at 4:17 yesterday. My concern or question about this item is it is updating the comprehensive plan and doing a series of other tasks. And I'm just wondering to what extent a lot of this has already been done, because if you look in your packet and go to item 5C, as in Charlie, what you will see is adoption of zoning maps and future land use maps. And they were adopted today. It says adoption date March 2025. And I realize over time there might be some small updates to the comprehensive plan, but the reality is that we don't have too many challenges in this town. It's built out, and it's residential properties, very little commercial. There's no industrial, and so forth. And the memorandum from Mr. Harper mentions at the paragraph toward the bottom that we've already paid. Well, the septic to sewer doesn't count, but the work authorization 2024-19 was for amendments to the comp plan related to EAR of $13,000. And I'm not saying there may not be a need for this work done by Kimley Horn. I just question the cost. It talks about updating GIS maps. That's not exactly rocket science to do that once you have the file set up and so forth. I just think the price at $85,500 is excessive. So that's why I'm bringing it here in light of some of the other work that has been done. So.
All right. Any comments from council on any of these items? Or Mr. Harper, you want to respond?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Vice Mayor Atwater noted, I've communicated with him on a number of occasions about this. The time frame for our amendment or updates to our comprehensive plan is now relative to the 7-year timeframes. The last updates were done in, just give me a second, in 2019, I believe it was. Was started in 2019. The last update was actually transmitted in September of 2020. The amendment was ultimately adopted in 2021. Basically, overall, the comprehensive plan is being updated to reflect a number of things, to include, and it will cover the 20-year planning horizon through 2045. Once this particular update with all of the items outlined in the work authorization is complete, then subject to any statutory requirements, such as were mentioned earlier, like the septic to sewer, there won't need to be a routine review or update of the comprehensive plan for another 7 years from 2025. So that's the outline, that's the background for getting all this done now. I will note summarily that prior to 2021, there was a different provider, and different engineers, different planners for these projects, and we're doing the best we can to get everything in full compliance, to include something even as simple as making sure the font in the document is correct throughout the entire document, that the photographs are appropriate, and all of those substantive things that historically were not done candidly in a manner that I thought they should be done. So with this update, I believe that will be fine, subject to the 7-year time frame or any statutory requirements that come out of the legislature that actually necessitate us to change the comp plan.
So just clarifying one point, so if we do this, we would have to do this somewhere along the way in the next 7 years, or after 7 years, so doing it now obviates the need to do some of that? Or?
Our update is due now, based on the previous update within that 7-year time frame. Then, once this is done, the statute 163, that's 6131, don't quote me on that. Could be 3161, sorry. That is the statute that requires the comprehensive plan to be updated every 7 years pursuant to that particular statute. And again, I'm excluding any statutory requirements. Staff, I just think it's appropriate to do it at this time. I'm very conscious and appreciative of the Vice Mayor's comments, and tried to communicate with him in regards to what my goal was here.
Yeah, I also appreciate the Vice Mayor's comments, and it's why we have such an effective council here. I can't resist compared to other places, because we pay attention to these things. But this is it's a soft question, but it's really what's the important aspect to me is, like, I delegate to staff on these things, and then I think you've earned our trust on it. You're confident that this is the right price for this type of job? Did we price it out? I know we didn't have the greatest experience with another engineer, but
I am, and I say that confidently, and to add, the level of work product is what the town requires, without the actual local professionals.
all right. I hate paying taxpayer money for these comp plan things, because it was somebody's bright idea in Tallahassee that just well, I think there's a legislative proposal, I don't know where it is in committee, to just eliminate comp plans, period. So if all goes well, maybe we don't have to pay these in the future, but based on the Vice Mayor's comments and on your assurances that this is the right time to do it, I'm persuaded we should do it. I think we should watch it carefully, and I would like you to go back and see if you can't have them take one for a good client, maybe negotiate a discount. If you can't, we understand, but there's more work coming down the pike, and we're a good client. We pay on time, actually, all right? And our checks don't bounce. There's a lot of pluses for working with the town of Indian River Shores for Kimley Horn. So that's my take on it. Any other discussions from council?
No.
No? But I greatly appreciate your remarks as well, Vice Mayor. So is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed?
Opposed.
All right, thank you very much. Let's move on to staff updates. 9A, Building Official Report and Statistics.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of council. I don't have anything additional to add, so if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer any.
One quick question.
Sure.
From application to action time, what would you say your average time is in terms of processing?
Less than a week.
Okay, all right. I'm just going to tell you I want a beer from somebody in terms of how quick our time is compared to other places. So thank you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Anything else for? All right. Thank you. Code enforcement. It's your day, Officer Mike Rands.
Lucky. Good morning again. Other than what's on the monthly report, I have no updates. Any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Nothing? All right. Thank you very much. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
You can notice the improvement, and I don't want to just come up here and say, okay, thanks, and I noticed the improvement. There's there are fewer signs. There's fewer unsightly things that happen that that don't get to us, and probably don't even get in your report because you're out there working with people, telling them like, you really can't leave this garbage there. You can't do this. You can't do that. So thank you. It greatly enhances the aesthetics of our community and keeps us the way we are. So thank you for what you do.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Public Works Department, Mr. Bryant.
Good morning, council. You got my report or any questions?
Vice Mayor.
Item number 9, securing the town lot. Is that the one down the road?
Yes, sir.
Right, Turk Drive? Okay. All right.
Great. All ready for hurricane season?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Ms. Christmas, Town Treasurer Report.
Good morning. You do have my report. Just of an item of note, the auditors are currently reviewing the financial statements. I actually had to make changes this morning, and we're still on target for presentation in April. So that's my only update. That's not in my report.
Is this the audit report for fiscal 2024 or for some year earlier, like 2015 or?
No, this is the September 30th, 2024 report.
Well, we say thank you as a matter of courtesy and course in these meetings, but we really mean it this time. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for being you. And I was asked if you were available for on-loan work, and I said no. So, thank you very much.
I don't know, maybe $5,000 or $10,000 an hour, and we get 50% of it.
Thank you.
But it's, truly, I've said this to other people down the road. You keep us informed about everything that's going on. The nonsense that happened down there couldn't possibly happen here, and because you do your job as you're supposed to, as opposed to having a situation where the town manager down there has to be flabbergasted that he didn't know about it. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Very true. Chief, Public Safety Department.
Good morning, all. Just a few update on a few items. The construction of the building continues to progress along nicely. The metal building framework that you can see the skeleton up there, that should be enclosed within the next 2 weeks, and that entire wing out next to Public Works should be just about wrapped up with the exception of one small cover that needs to go over the generator that's out there. So that's moving along well. The kitchen upgrades and actually all the door reframing and those types of things in the main building are progressing along nicely. Been very happy with the working relationship with the contractor. For those of you that were around a couple of weeks ago, we had what's known in our business as a trauma alert. Gentleman fell off of a two-story building, and because of the nature of the injuries, the crew on scene made the quick decision to go ahead and fly that patient out. We landed the helicopter in the middle of Fred Turk and loaded the patient up quickly and got him to the trauma center. The patient is recovering now, but he did have some significant injuries. The traffic enforcement continues to be a success. The flashing speed limit signs that we've got have been very helpful. I usually come to work before 7 o'clock in the morning, and I've noticed that when it's dark outside, I really like to find a dimmer switch that we can put on that thing to kind of tone it down a little bit. But they are effective. They do let people know what's going on. And I've also reached out to Google Maps and some of the other Meta folks and try to get through FDOT to try to get some movement on that. The requests have been verbal so far. If I don't hear anything in the next couple of weeks, I'll go ahead and put a written request in to see if we can get some of that fixed up. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Anything for the chief? No?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chief. Town Attorney, Mr. Sweeney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Just to follow up on the idea where we are in the legislative process, it's unbelievable to think it's already been going on for 3 weeks, and we'll be ending roughly the first couple days of May, May 3rd. As you said, Mayor, there are several bills that are moving through, many of which would not affect the town, but some of which may. So what I will do is put together, inclusive of the three previously identified bills, the one regarding utility transfers, the one regarding ADUs or mother-in-law suites, and also the one regarding sovereign immunity. I'll put together a short list. I will send it to council, ask you if there's anything on there. There's about 7 or 8 other ones that I think might be appropriate. Ask if you'd like more information, if it's not pertinent, or if you happen to talk to any of your other colleagues at other cities, towns, Florida League of Cities, let me know, and I will put them on the tracking mechanism, and I'll provide an update on that. But the one that you started with regarding utilities, that has 3 committees that it would have to go through on the House side. It's been through 2. So it now has to go to a 3rd one. There, of course, has to be a Senate companion. There are a couple of competing ones on the Senate side. Doesn't look like they've coalesced behind one. But again, probably over the next 2 to 3 weeks, we'll know whether or not that will have legs, move forward. And that's sort of the timing, I would say. If it doesn't get real momentum by, say, April 10th, then it has a hard time moving forward. And the reason why is the last 2 or 3 weeks, they have to focus on the budget. The budget has to be done, and that's generally where everybody goes to. You've already seen some press from the governor, his priorities. So I would say over the next 2 to 3 weeks, that's sort of your most important time for figuring out if something's going to move forward or not. So I will do that, and again, if there's anything that any of you want to know more about or have heard about, I'll be happy to ferret that, chase that down.
So, you know, you're making a good point. So the time to get ourselves on record is now. So is it reasonable to get the draft to council within the week?
I will have one to you by Friday. Yes.
As you sit here today, other than it's, you know, House Bill 1523.
1523, yes, sir.
And I think that's the combined of a previous one.
Yes, sir.
Which was HB 55, and then there's a Senate companion. That's the way that came out. Other than that, and then the House Bill 943, which is the accessory dwelling unit, which, you know, really kind of covers. I'm not sure what our local zoning powers would be if this thing ever got passed as is. So other than those 2, is there anything that anybody can think of they'd like Pete to include?
I guess that's more of a general question. In the past, there has been bills that would limit the ability of municipal utilities to charge higher rates to customers outside their incorporated boundaries. Is there any bill like that in this legislative session?
In fact, that's the bill that the mayor referenced, 1523.
HB 55 was that, and then 1523 then includes no 25% surcharge.
Okay.
Permissible.
The main 2 points to the mayor's point are eliminates the 25% and also caps what could be transferred from a utility fund to a general fund.
I thought it was just the transfer.
No, it's inclusive of both. Just very briefly, a couple of other ones that I've seen through the Florida League of Cities, sort of listserv, an idea. again, whether or not anybody wants to get behind it.
The vice mayor, as usual, makes a very good point, which is, instead of just saying we support it, because we don't know what this thing is going to look like, let's bullet point the 3 items that we want. No disparity or discrimination in rates, no surcharge, 25%, and, the limitation on the transfer, I think they're capping it at 2 million. I wouldn't even put a number on it, maybe a little bit lower, so just say, limiting the transfer would be, does everybody agree? I think it's a good idea, rather than just say we support the bill, to bullet point what aspects of the bill that we want. So.
Yeah, $2 million wouldn't help us, given Vero Beach's budget.
I agree, yeah. But the 25% and no discrimination in rates going forward, given what I see coming down the road and what I'm sure you see coming down the road, would be helpful. So.
Absolutely. I will do that. Just very briefly, a couple other have to do with local business tax. It'll be our, BTRs is also what they're referred to, business tax receipts. CRAs, and whether they would be disbanded on a much more global basis. Regional planning councils, to dismiss those. It's interesting talking about the building department processing time. The building code gets updated every several years, just like we were talking about the comprehensive plan. There's a proposal to allow, if you're at the end of one cycle for the building code and a new one's going to be coming online, you don't get caught in between, so to give some grace over, say, a 24-month period to be under the prior code before the new one takes effect. Those are generally sort of the ideas. So again, I'll outline those, put those together, and try to be very specific and concise.
But just to beat a dead horse to death, let's keep the letter to the 2 items that we have. Otherwise, it just goes across somebody's desk.
Understood.
Another one of these, okay?
And I'll work with Mr. Harpring as well to make sure that, administratively, I'm not missing anything.
Yeah.
Okay. Other than that, that's my report for this month. Happy to answer any questions.
Anything?
Nothing.
Town manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. I don't have anything of substance addition to what we've already talked about. I do want to, of course, always thank really the incredible staff that we have from top to bottom here. I do want to particularly thank Lucy on the solid waste transition that continues. I know that after October 1st, I think we're just going to take up a collection and send Lucy on a vacation, because she has literally probably talked to every single resident in this town at least once, and they're on a spreadsheet, and she knows about their garbage cans, and it's been a big lift, but we're getting there. The procedural pieces have gone well. Thank our town attorney and our friends at the tax collector's office for getting all that together, and we're looking forward and have gotten great cooperation with Waste Management on our transition and Republic. So thank you, Lucy, and that's all I have, Council.
Great. Anything for Mr. Harpring? Nothing for Mr. Harpring?
No.
No? Okay. All right. Let's move on. Council committee reports. Anything fun happen at League of Cities, or?
Well, following up, speaking of, their main focus right now is legislative, moving bills along. It's pretty noticeable that there's some division in the interests, and generally it's notable between the larger and the smaller towns. Their interests are quite substantially different, and in fact conflicting in some ways. So, I think they were sending some groups up this month, so I'll have a better report on legislative, but it's going to all be public anyway. So we don't know what's going to pass, what isn't going to pass, what's going to be stalled until next year. So who knows? But the league really does a pretty good job, considering they have such a diverse group. I mean, some of them they're trying to scramble for a few $100s to send somebody up there, as opposed to other ones where it's just a rote line item for them. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens, and the governor's pushing some stuff that some of the cities don't like and some of them do like.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's been noted here before, and the way their dues are structured, the larger municipalities contribute more than the smaller municipalities, so don't have to be really brilliant to figure out who they're going to listen to. They're going to listen to Orlando, you know, or, you know, the larger municipalities that kind of favor the stuff that's not so good for us. But thank you for keeping us informed. Councilman Altieri, you have anything on utilities?
There was a Utilities Commission meeting on March 4th. It was a particularly robust meeting. The commission room was almost filled. It had little to do with the issues that were of great importance to us, but more having to do with the Florida Surgeon General's recommendation that water districts consider removing fluoride from public waters. There was a very, very active discussion about that, both pro and con. There were representatives from the dental community, the professional dental community, who spoke in favor of the continuation of fluoridation in the waters. Then there were very passionate members of the Vero Beach community who spoke against it. Mostly the burden of their comments was that fluoride is a chemical, in their minds, analogous to a medicine, and that fluoridation of water is forced medicine on people who didn't raise their hand and say they want fluoride in the water. So it was a very, very active discussion. It's not an issue that is, my own personal view, of burning interest to our constituents.
Nobody here has any natural teeth left, so...
We have, I think, 4,241 residents in the shores. 290 of those people are less than 20 years old. So I don't think it's a burning issue for us, but it's an interesting issue. I do think the sense of the room is that I think it'll probably favor the idea of removing fluoride from the waters. When you remove fluoride from the waters, when you remove the injection of fluoride from the water, you're not taking fluoride out of the water because it's naturally in the water, and the filtration process that the town goes through does not take out all of the trace fluoride that's in it. So there is probably enough trace fluoride elements in the water to keep most of the people happy about whether or not they're getting fluoride in the water. So that was the heart of the meeting. I had raised in a letter to the chairperson of the committee that it was my hope and expectation that somebody from the Central Water Services Group would be at the March 4th meeting to discuss recent developments arising out of the commotion having to do with financial audit and how that would filter down to events affecting the wastewater treatment facility. Rob Bolton was at the meeting, but said that he didn't have enough time to consider the questions that were raised in my letter. So I did two things. One was said, I assume that there's nothing that gets in the way of any member of the commission to reach out to Mr. Bolton and get together with him personally, and he welcomed that, and it's my expectation to meet with him before the next meeting, which is a special meeting, which will be the first week in April, and that meeting will address, I think, probably again a sort of a revisit of the fluoridation issue, but also the issues that I raised in my letter. So we are going to at least get some attention to our concerns about the burgeoning costs associated with the treatment facility. This is a facility that in 2021, the projected cost was somewhere around $51 million. The latest number is now something around $178 million, and I don't think it's going to stop there. So we'll shine as much light as we can on that issue, and I think that having the opportunity to sit down with him before the next meeting will be helpful in terms of just getting giving him a better understanding of our concerns and getting a better understanding of his perspective before the meeting.
Great, thank you very much.
Just a question on that. Back toward the end of calendar year 2024, they were projecting that they would come in front of City Council, Vero Beach City Council, with a final number in April. Have there been any additional discussion on when they're going to actually go to City Council and saying, this is what we have to bond out?
There's been no discussion about that, and it's one of the issues I wanted to talk to Rob Bolton about. There was really no substantive discussion about those cost items, other than the fact that I had raised my hand and sent a letter, and that letter got the attention of the other people on the commission and also the chairperson of the commission, and it at least got him in the room.
And thank you very much, and thank you for your past service on the Utility Commission. I'm surprised you have hair left after all the years you did doing that, Bob. But, you know, I'd love to call, you know, Bob and Sam up and ask them these questions, but, you know, you can't because the Sunshine Law. But, you know, I keep being told that the city doesn't have a rating, like they don't have any rating. So how does this all play out? I mean, what's the ability, you know, you guys are finance professionals.
Go first?
What's the ability of them to even, you know, get funding through bonds if they don't have a rating with this mess? You know, they don't even have audited financials. That all being, you know, interspersed with what Councilman Altieri said, combined with, you know, there were statements by the city that they were going to have shovels in the ground last summer, breaking ground on this plant. So they're way behind. And every time they come out with another one of these nosebleed numbers, we know that they're, you know, they're off by 10 to 15% because they just keep going up and up. So, you know, very simple sophomore question from me, like, how does this all play out? Do they even have the ability to have conversations with the markets to say, like, here's what we want to do, or, you know, what do they need to do to get off first base?
2 points with regard to rating. At the appropriate time, the underwriter would work in conjunction with the city of Vero Beach to go to Moody's, S&P, Fitch, others, thank you, to get a rating. So they can do that. With regard to all of the missteps that have taken place, the false starts, the tremendous differential between the estimation of cost 2 or 3 years ago versus what it is today. From my standpoint, the bond underwriter didn't care about any of that. They just, all they want to do, and I think well, I won't speculate. Whoever the bond underwriter is only cares about the rating, the amount they have to sell, their charge to sell, and getting predominantly individual clients, maybe some insurance companies. Chubb, for example, as an insurer, is still arguably one of the largest owners of municipal bonds in the country. All they care about is getting the deal done. They don't, the underwriter could care less about all the, in my opinion, about all the false starts and missteps that have taken place since we first began hearing about all this. And furthermore, I don't think the bond underwriter cares very much about the things that have taken place recently with regard to the failure to file the appropriate documents on time, as long as by the time they're ready to go to market with the issue, everything is in place. Buyers of the bonds, the individual buyers of the bonds, could care less. So Vero Beach is going to sell, I guess, an industrial development revenue bond with a 3% coupon due in 20 years. The individual on the other end of the phone, that's all that individual cares about. They don't care about all this other stuff.
Yeah, I generally agree with Sam's comments. It would probably be a water and sewer bond rather than industrial revenue bond. Raymond James is the underwriter, and to your point, I think one reason why they got picked is because they have ins with individual investors in Florida. They have a very strong presence.
Yeah.
And if you can sell to individual investors rather than institutional investors, you generally get a lower interest rate because they're not as sophisticated. I do think that the agencies will probably ding Vero Beach somewhat because of their faulty is too kind of a term, massive financial mismanagement. I think they got to give them an audited statement before they're going to rate the bonds. You know, I've heard comments with Vero Beach, this was years ago, they thought they could get a AAA. I think it's going to come out about a single A rating but yeah, at the end of the day, the deal will get done. A lot of individual investors like water and sewer bonds because they're considered to be pretty safe because everybody has to pay their water bill and they have to flush their toilets and drink the water. So I think it'll probably work out at the end, but it'll probably hurt a little bit on the interest rate because of the trail of tears that we've gone through. So.
Okay, all
I
right.
think that's really only one side of the story because the other side of the financing are the grants, and the grants are now recurring. So if you look at
Sure,
so
sure.
if you look at Fort Pierce,
Yeah.
when Fort Pierce did their water utility work, that's like 2 or 3 years ago, Bob, I think.
Correct.
I think the financing was $100 million, but the balance of it was through grants. And these state, I think they've already been parallel circuits grants.
Didn't they get awarded, what was it, 13 million?
31.5 million is total pledge on the last go around. So, yeah, I think 13 million awarded, then, and I promise I'm not making it up. There's another number, I'm not
Okay.
sure it's been closed out.
Well, I hope you're right.
And then there's another 500 million, which is, you know, being talked about this budget cycle for further funding for the Clean Lagoon thing, which are kind of the same programs.
Okay.
But my understanding is they're not eligible for those previously awarded or pledged grants until they get this all cleaned up. And I was talking to our town attorney about this today. There is a sunset date on those as well. You know, that there's a spend by date. So, you know, this can't go on forever. That we only have so much time to devote to this, you know, when we're beholden to it no matter what.
Sure.
So in my simple way of interpreting all the excellent comments you guys made is that, yeah, well, at the end of the day, they'll probably do it, but it's going to cost us a lot more. And frankly, the financial markets don't care if it costs a lot
They
more
don't care.
because it's a bigger issue for them, right?
Sure.
So, all right.
And the owners of the bonds don't care.
Mhm.
As long as they get paid,
Yeah.
they don't care about any of this other stuff.
Great.
We are too deeply enmeshed in all of the missteps
Yep.
that have taken place, not to mention our position vis-a-vis the city of Vero Beach
Sure, we have
with regard to our franchise agreement.
Yep.
But it's two different concepts of valuation. That we've listened to Bob reports about how this is cascaded over the last 3 years. So you look at it and say, well, is this project really worth $178 million? It's a different valuation concept. Once it gets to Wall Street, that's a totally different valuation. It's just about do you have the full faith and credit of the state, the city, that is going to be able to meet its obligation. That's different. But we look at it and say, well, but we're a customer, right? We don't need to vote. We're just a customer to a monopolized utility. So we're irritated. But still, it's most people would look at this and say, well, how? Really? $51 million to $178 million, and we don't know if we're at the end of that? There's got to be a better way to do this measure, I believe. And all you need to do is look at what Fort Pierce did. They did it for
It's a pretty good plan. I took a tour of it under construction. Utilities director came and with the construction manager, I spent an hour on the site. They were walking me through different things. They did that late last year.
And on an operational basis, it is more efficient, 15% more efficient.
Okay.
Than what's planned for this.
Just one thing on the water and sewer bonds. Typically, the way they're issued, it would not be backed by the full faith and credit of Vero Beach. It would be backed by the revenues from the utility, and really, that is better than than the city, so, you know, for the reasons I talked about before.
All right, well, I mean, it's, to, you know, kind of put an exclamation point on this, Sam's point, like, following Sam's point, you know, we should be rooting for them to get their house in order
Absolutely.
so that they get these grants to reduce the overall cost to us, because guess who's gonna wind up paying for this? We are, and the ratepayers, so, I think we're clear on that. Thank you, it's helpful to hear it concisely summarized by you. All right, Treasure Coast Council, local governments, Sheriff Del Toro gave an update on what's going on in St. Lucie County. He mentioned belt-tightening in the sheriff's office due to budgetary constraints that they see coming down the road. It's not our burden, but I think we can anticipate, you know, we're probably going to see less funding from the federal government and state government coming down to county governments. The only item of note beyond that was the sovereign immunity issue, and we talked about that earlier. And Treasure Coast Council local governments will also be taking a position against that bill. So we were all able to find something that, you know, governments big and small, municipal governments big and small, we're able to agree on. So we have that.
Okay, a couple things. I mentioned I was at the Beach and Shores Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee meeting yesterday. There was a presentation on the bike and pedestrian plan. Just briefly, the gentleman from FDOT down in District 4, Fort Lauderdale, was talking about it, and I raised my hand and asked him what was the status of our potential pedestrian activated crosswalk. He said he would follow up on it. Mark Shaw and I started at this discussion back in January of 2024. We had a phone call last January, and then I haven't heard anything, so he said he'd follow up. The second thing I want to bring to your attention, you have this document here in front of you. This is my presentation to the Beach and Shores Preservation Advisory Committee meeting. I think I mentioned before that there was a meeting that ended up not being a real meeting because we didn't have a quorum. Just to reiterate, Sebastian Inlet District, they're in that block sand that comes down eventually to us. And they're required under state law, which is on the first page here, Chapter 161, that they're required to move that sand down there. They have failed miserably on that. If you look on the next page, what you'll see is that they have what is known as a bypass objective of anywhere from 70 to 90,000 yards over the years since 2020. And if you look down at the table 10 there in the middle, you'll notice that as a percentage objective met was only 58.9%. So that chart that's on the bottom, I'm just going to go through this super fast, shows how they have failed to hit this target. So the cumulative volume down there on this graph is green line here, and the objective is red. So they're roughly, what was the number, 829,000 yards short. Now, and if you look on the following page, what I did was the Florida DEP each year puts out an annual inlet report for every single one of the inlets. I downloaded all of them, dropped them in a spreadsheet, and then sorted them on the right-hand side there by best objective to worst objective. Sebastian Inlet brings up the rear. Now, the current executive director, James Gray, who used to be our executive director for the county from 2004 to 2019, said, well, we actually came closer to that objective at 96% because the county kicked in a lot of sand. Well, in my opinion, county taxpayers should not have done that. That's what Sebastian Inlet District said. So the reason why I bring this up is there is a memorandum of understanding for relating to the obligations on this page here of how they have to move sand down to a MOU between the county and the Sebastian Inlet District. And basically, when I saw the memoranda, it just said there's a target. There was no enforcement mechanism. And as you can see, they didn't do it since 2000 at 58%. So I'm not a recovering lawyer, but I put my lawyer hat on and wrote this additional language to be inserted and creates an enforcement mechanism. Basically, this has a 5-year roll on this agreement. And I said every 2.5 years, if they're short, we have to figure out they're short, and the plan has to be, the MOU says Sebastian District has to come and fix it, come up with a plan. The Inlet District doesn't want to do anything at all. The county came up with an agreement that had no teeth in it. So I put this in front of the committee, and I have to say, I got zero support on it. I was really surprised, really surprised. And this impacts us because they dropped the sand in Sector 1 and Sector 2. The top end of Indian River Shores is Sector 3. What I thought was rather interesting was there is a representative from Orchid, a council person there, and he didn't support me on it, even though it would directly help them. So it's kind of a dead issue at the moment. If a memorandum of understanding with the lousy language gets in front of the county commission, I will do this presentation all over again because the way it was written, it wasn't worth the paper that it was written on. Absolutely no teeth to it at all.
What is the intended meaning or the following intention of adjacent, what does it mean adjacent to road beaches?
What it means is that the state legislature knows that these inlets block the natural movement of sand. So whichever direction is going, they call it the downdrift beaches is the term that they use. They have, I'm sorry?
Factory uses that?
Yes.
It does?
Yes. Downdrift beaches. So, yeah, later on it does. So, yeah, but that it says accordingly, the legislature finds in the public interest to replicate the natural drift of sand which is interrupted or altered by inlets to be replaced, and for each level government undertake all reasonable efforts to maximize inlet sand bypass and ensure that beach quality sand is placed on adjacent eroding beaches. So in our case, it's south of us. And it's the Inlet District that's responsible. In my opinion, they should pay, and they don't. So there is, right now, there is no agreement. The Inlet District has stated that they will, through their executive director, James Gray, they will not sign any agreement that requires them to make sure the sand in. They will only agree to a target. Target is not a mandate. So I just wanted to bring you up to speed because it eventually does hurt us. We just put all the sand on the beach. I want that sand coming down. It, moves all over time. So that's all I have.
So, no, thank you for agreeing this. I mean, scratching my head wondering why the county wouldn't be all for this because that's less sand they have to dump in the ocean, right? So,
yeah, well, initially, it didn't have the agreement had no requirement at all. I got a copy of it. That's when I wrote this last page. Then they came back and changed it, but it had very little teeth to it. It was slightly better, but.
So, I'm going to have a look at this because you piqued my interest, but, this almost, if there is a mandate, Mr. Sweeney, it almost cries out for like, a mandamus, right? I mean, if there's no discretion and this is what they're supposed to do, whoever has the authority delegated to them would have to, I mean, there's no discretion, they've got to do it. And a memorandum of understanding from the county is more like, doesn't have any legal import, it's like holding your breath and counting to 10 until they do it. There may be another way to do this, is what I'm, citizens group, could have standing to do this. Beach and Shores, I don't think does. I think there's.
No, they're advisory.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, to your point, which was brought up at meeting, which I did not know about, there was apparently a lawsuit by some communities just north of 510 on this. I don't know what the outcome of that, but several people got up and said, why is this coming up again? we had a lawsuit where they claimed the inlet district lost. And supposedly someone from the county was going to come back on that, but I haven't heard anything.
So can you follow up on that, Pete?
Well, absolutely. Mayor, no problem at all, Mayor, Council. This is unique in the sense that there are only so many inlets in Florida. And again, this is not as prevalent on the West Coast because you don't have the north to south flow like you have on our East Coast.
We have an artificial inlet that was created years ago.
Correct. So
That was the quid pro quo. It was like any impact,
would be offset.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And also, hence, Councilman Alfieri, hence why there's a special district. Again, Fort Pierce Inlet does not have a special district to govern that issue, right? So this, to the mayor's point, was created sort of looking forward, recognizing that something might happen like this. And I think to your point, Mayor, I'm not aware of it being construed. I recall discussion at some point over the last 15, I think even longer, maybe 20 years, of a suit or allegations of failure to follow this requirement by some of those property owners up by Treasure Museum in that area. However, I don't know that Beach and Shore or any of the advisory committees would be necessarily right standing. And as we've seen with a lot of, it's funny we're talking about legislative updates, a lot of things that have happened in the last 5 or 10 years have empowered individuals to have standing to sue agencies and also potentially get fees. I don't know if that would be applicable here, but again,
That's where I'm going with this, so I think.
It may be.
I think it's important enough for us to get an answer, because it
Yes, sir.
definitely affects us. I mean.
It does.
We're taking the brunt of this erosion, and, I don't think anybody up here is qualified to opine on why, specifically, but, we ought to be, as taxpayers of the state and county, we ought to be getting what we deserve. So, we can there's a way to go to 161.142, and you just put a search in,
Yeah.
and any construction will come up. We'll see if that happens in Florida.
Well, I believe that on the inlet district, the southern boundary is Old Winter Beach Road.
Okay.
That the,
Define southern boundary is Old Winter Beach Road?
yeah, you go on a website, it's split between Brevard County and northern Indian River County, and I believe the boundary is, our former council member, Chris Hendricks, was actually on the Inlet District Board.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, so, and I think the way it works is 3 of the board members of the Inlet District are elected by Brevard, and the other 2 are from Indian River County.
Well, this just smells to me like somebody not wanting to step on somebody else's toes, and that the better approach here would be to have, like, citizens doing this, because as the town attorney points out, it eliminates the standing issue, because citizens always have standing, right? So, we get some citizen groups to do it, and if there's an attorney's fee, provision capable, then, some reward for a lawyer out there to do it. But let's find out a little more about it, because it doesn't seem like we're getting our, and another phrase I hate, but it doesn't seem like we're getting our fair share here. It really doesn't.
In this
So,
case, it's.
yeah.
And Mr. Mayor, just to clarify, the district is not only just what you would typically think of as the beach, but it actually goes significantly inland.
Oh, yeah.
And covers, but,
Fellsville.
yes, sir. But where you would think about it from the beach side, from the barrier island, its southernmost boundary is in fact Old Winter Beach Road here on the barrier island, continues all the way north on the barrier island, past obviously the inlet, continuing north all the way up to roughly the O'Galley Causeway up near Melbourne.
Well, I did give this presentation to their inlet district. They had a meeting in North County Library. I was the only person other than staff at the meeting, big shock. And I just walked it through. They didn't have any comments, not that I expected them to, but James Gray, when he came to the meeting, said, no way, Jose. They're not going to do anything, so.
Pete, do you think you could do the legislative history of the statute?
Yes, 161, 142? Yes, sir.
The legislature put this phrase in adjacent road beaches, and to Bob's point, adjacent road beaches could be construed to mean any beach within what it defines as the southern border. That's a compelling argument. If it doesn't say that, then you walk into a factual determination about Sandridge and whether Sandridge that has been affected by the destruction of the inlet affects something that is not an adjacent to the beach. And that's a factual question. I'd love to avoid the factual question if we can tie those two concepts.
The statute was initially passed in 1986 and has had several revisions. The most recent appears to be last year in 2024. But I will happily put that together as well and be able to give you that background.
So Bob, when the district does get involved in standards enforcement efforts, has it been limited to sector 1 and 2?
That's my understanding, that's where they have put it down.
Because they're making a determination about an adjacent road. Maybe.
Right, yeah, but that's a pretty long distance from the jetty, so, yeah, that's, but it does get down here, because I remember the time when Johns Island did a beach project on their own, and they planted all the grasses, and unfortunately, that didn't stay there, and, down where I live, it's a couple miles down from Johns Island, I was seeing bits of sand with the plants in there, so it moves quicker than you think, and I want every cubic inch of sand I can possibly get for our town, because we've been screwed for so long on this. I mean, I was fighting this since 2015, and we're finally to this point, so, but, I mean, Pete, my first step would be, these people brought up this lawsuit, and, maybe there's an enforcement mechanism there that the inlet district has been thumbing their nose at. I don't know, but...
I will research all of those items and provide feedback to all council.
Yeah.
Great, I'd appreciate it, and to your point, you made it, maybe they made a determination, maybe they haven't made a determination, they're just doing what they're doing, I mean, we know how government works.
It's cheaper.
Right. Sounds good, we're trying to help you, Mr. Cole. All right, anything else?
No.
Sam?
Economic Development Council
Okay.
meeting from last Tuesday was canceled.
Okay.
I have nothing to report.
Yeah, so I think, this will be a short section next time because most of the meetings have been canceled. I don't know about the other cities, but they're canceling a lot of the April meetings because they're doing their legislative push going to Tallahassee, so you won't have to hear any reports on that. Any comments from the audience? Nothing, Mr. Farquhar? We started out with a full house. You're the last man standing. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Hey, Jim, anything back with traffic light?
Yes.